Alright, it seems like time for an update on number 6, as I call the bike. So this is based on a FZR 250. The rules in the little class that I used to race in at the time I started work on it was that you were allowed a 125cc. Now, there was no decent engines around at that time. Honda Twins, not too bad, solid, reliable, but 2 valve per cylinder, air cooled, not really up to scratch. So I scored an FZR 250 engine. Actually, I scored a couple, and together they were combined to produce this engine, which is, as you can see by the exhaust pipe, a twin. The exhaust on this bike actually goes into a plenum chamber, which has the lambda sensor, you can see there, going up to the engine management system. Looking from the other side, you can see where the 2 pipes go into a plenum chamber. The exit of the plenum chamber comes around to this small turbocharger, which is sitting in the space formerly occupied by cylinders 1 and 2 off the FZR 250 engine. So the exit of the turbo, the dump pipe if you like, comes around and crosses the front of the engine and exits pointing over to the right. The end of the camshafts where the cylinders were cut off, I left little bosses that I machined up sticking out the end of the plate through some little oil seals, and you can see on the exhaust cam the single tooth trigger wheel, which provides a home signal for the ECU, which is now fitted in place of the carburetors in the ignition module from the original FZR. The output of the turbocharger feeds into this plenum chamber here, which has built-in velocity stacks which plug into the throttle bodies, which fit direct to the original carb mounting rubbers on the FZR 250. The twin throttle bodies are actually from a Ecotrons kit for a GPZ 250 and plug straight into the FZR 250 inlets. So it's quite a bonus, that. And another odd little bonus was that the throttle cable from my Yamaha Cygnus 125 scooter fits the throttle body and then goes around directly into the hand grip, so it's a perfect fit. One other thing, that the whole ignition system's been replaced. The original ignition coils have been replaced. There was no need for the dual outlet coils since there's only 2 cylinders on this bike. So the ignition coils I'm now using are Chevy LS1 ignition coils, fired individually by the ECU. They work pretty good, no problem so far. As you can see, there's quite a bit of wiring on this bike. None of the original FZR wiring is used. Initially I was using a Ecotrons plug-and-play system, which worked surprisingly well, considering it wasn't designed for this bike. It was designed for a GPZ 250. I got the turbo option as well, so which is basically a 1.5 bar map sensor rather than the 1 bar map sensor. The power wiring to the ignition coils is supposed to have a smoothing capacitor on it, or it filters out all the noise. But what I've done is each individual coil I've put a smaller capacitor on it, which is actually a condenser from a points ignition car. The fuse holder that I'm using here is from an old Haltech system that I had ages ago for my other turbocharged bike, and the orange connector in the back here fits to a, very hard to see with the video, fits on a 3-bar General Motors map sensor. So to get any sort of a reliable signal at that map sensor, I've had to take the manifold signal from each inlet tract, combine it in a T-piece that you can possibly see down in front of the ignition coils there, and then feed that up to the map sensor. Now, after some further work on the dyno, I've actually had to tee that off and gone to this rising rate fuel pressure regulator. We found that the injectors were topping out before the engine got anywhere near max revs, which was a bit of a shame. So anyway, hopefully this has fixed it. Yep. I did say originally that I had used a Ecotron's ECU. Now, due to limitations with configuring that and the fact that it does not record data when in use, and a few other support issues, I changed over to a Link G4 Plus Atom engine management system. So there is one huge bunch of wiring there. You can't even see half of it. It's hidden under there. And using a lithium battery and a small voltage regulator, which seems to work fine, supplying the power that's needed to this system.